who ruled so many peoples, but awarded them all the rights of free men. There were no slaves in the Persian Empire.
This is an interesting interview that was conducted by Jon Snow, who later on went to present Newsnight on BBC Two on UK television. He's interviewing the Shah, and I think the year might be 1974 or 5. I'm not entirely sure, but thereabouts. But let's have a listen to this because the framing of his question to the king, the Shah, is rather strange. Anyway, let's just have a listen, shall we?
May I put it this way? Many people watching you tonight, watching you talking to us now, many people in Britain, some of them cold, some of them quite poor, will be asking themselves what it is that you and certainly some of your Arab counterparts, sheikhs and rulers and governments, have against them. Does it in any way serve your interests
to make
a British economy suffer?
Why against? First of all, it's not British economy. If you want to say anything, it should be the world economy. And this is not against, we're just defending our chips. Because for such a long time, we have just been, well, exploited, I can say that. And why don't you say that when the price of wheat was augmented by 300%, they had something against us? We had to buy it, or soybean, or steel products, or petrochemical products, which in some cases have augmented by 30 times. So did you have anything against us when you augmented those prices? Or what I buy from you, even weapons. The price that you are charging today is not what you were charging 2 months ago. It's increasing. Have you something against us?
You can kind of read all kinds of things into that line of questioning. And here's a journalist for the BBC who's asking the Shah of Iran a question about the price of oil and what does he have against the Western powers. And you heard what he said, the price of certain commodities that Iran was purchasing from the UK and elsewhere, having risen in price of up to 300%, sometimes 400%, and yet they were expecting the Shah to sell his commodity, his country's commodity, at the rate that was being purchased maybe a decade or 2 decades before. Now, this is very important because, you know, you got to understand, in 1941, the British and the Soviets kicked out his father, Reza Shah, not because they had supposedly blamed him on some kind of collusion with Nazi Germany or something like that, which was complete and utter rubbish. There was no such thing at all. There was no collusion. There was no contract. There was no agreement. Let's see that contract. They only did it so they could continue exploiting the oil in Iran for the price that they had exploited it for, which was, you know, a mere bagatelle, really. It was nothing. And now here, the Shah is raising the price of oil simply because, you know, commodities are increasing in price and he's trying to modernize the country, so he needs the revenue. I mean, it only makes sense. We're going through inflation at the moment where prices are increasing by several 100%, only because energy has gone up in price, and not nearly at the rate that it was going back then, much lower rate. And yet we're seeing the effect of that 200%, 300%, 400%, 500% increase in prices. So the question is somewhat stupid and benign and redundant, but the Shah handles himself very well. Anyway, we can continue listening on again, and we'll come back to more things.
Have you anything in principle against the system in Britain and other Western countries?
Not really against, but I must tell you my opinion. If you continue this way, a permissive, undisciplined society, you are going to blow up. And in matter of fact...
How do you mean blow up? I'm not quite clear what you mean by that.
Well, you will go bankrupt. You work not enough. You try to get too much money for the little work that you are putting up, and this cannot continue. It can continue for a few months, maybe 1 or 2 years, but not forever.
You're not going to help us not to go bankrupt if you put the price of oil in.
I won't be a good friend of yours if I did help you being not aware of the seriousness of the situation.
Do you then see oil as in some way a weapon that can correct us and our system?
Not really, but I was trying to defend my own interests. But I think at the same time it is serving this cause to maybe have the effect of a shock on you and to realize and wipe your eyes and see that, well, to face the future you will have to change your ways.
How particularly would you like us to change?
Discipline, more work.
Do you see any conflict between the social and economic demands of your people, about 50% of them can't read or write yet, and the amount you spend on weapons?
No, because we couldn't spend more either on illiteracy or other social things, because first of all we wouldn't have the teachers, and then for instance over hospitals we wouldn't have the doctors, the trained nurses, and it could create inflation too. Can I say that this year we are going to have a 40% national growth at constant prices, which is more than twice or almost 3 times the world record which was held by the Japanese?
Do you think as your country gets more prosperous you will be able to restrain the demands of your people for more of the kind of democracy we have in Britain?
But who says that my people are demanding the democracy that you have in Britain?
Don't you think that history indicates that that does come with growing prosperity? Are there any developed,
Not
powerful
necessarily.
countries in this world with hereditary monarchies like your own?
Well, yes, but not necessarily, because our tradition are just on the opposite way. The people and their king are so close that they feel as the member of the same family. They have, I think, the respect that at least families or children used to have for their father.
Now, I want to come back to this particular point about him saying restraining his people more if they want a more type of democracy that they have in Britain. Now, this is quite fascinating. What kind of democracy do they have in Britain? I didn't realize Britain was even a democracy. I thought it was a constitutional monarchy. Yes, to some extent, it is a democracy in that the definition of democracy is the will of the majority. However, that still doesn't make it a democracy per se. There are many inconsistencies in the British democracy that really don't highlight it as a democracy at all. For one thing, it has a monarch who is head of state, head of church, and head of government. It has a parliament whose prime minister is selected and appointed by the monarch, not chosen by the people, like most people think. The general elections in England are not to choose a prime minister, but to choose a representative party in parliament. And whoever the leader of the party at the moment is, which is selected in secret by each party, becomes, or rather is appointed as prime minister by the monarch, and the monarch can reject that appointment or that recommendation if they so choose. There hasn't been that many precedents in common law in regards to that, but it certainly has been done in the past. But to ask a question of the Shah, who has liberated the workforce for women at a staggering rate, unrivaled in the region, education, industrialization, modernization, and to throw this question at someone who is sitting beneath the Soviets in the middle of a Cold War, price hiking, price gouging. The world wants him to sell his oil for nothing because that's what they want. I mean, in the 1970s compared to... This is one of the reasons why in the media you never see images of Saudi Arabia in the 1970s or Iraq in the 1970s or Jordan or any of these other countries, is that they were pretty much derelict almost. There was No development, no modernization, no infrastructure planning, no mass education, hospitals, schools, and the professional classes. I mean, literally in the ever since the Shah came to power, the middle class in Iran was created. And in the span of less than a generation, 25 years or so, this middle class had moved to an affluent demographic within the social structure of Iran. How many other countries in the region could have possibly made that claim? None. None of them could have possibly ever made that claim. Here was a country that had achieved that in 20 years or so. And he's now comparing it to Britain. You know, they've had over 1,000 years to correct their mistakes and what have you. And they've been a colonial country. They've been slave traders. They've been oppressors and what have you. You name it, they've been it. And they're trying to compare Iran to themselves, which is rather strange because when the Shah was trying to compare Iran to the West, they were having a go at him for being too ambitious and delusional and out of touch with reality. And here is Jon Snow asking him exactly the same question in reverse, which is rather comical in my opinion. I don't know where the BBC gets their journalists from, but it's obviously not from anywhere that is dedicated to journalism or the truth for that matter. But anyway, I'm going to leave a link for this video somewhere down there so you can have a look at the whole thing. But you know, it's a sham, really. I mean, it's just ridiculous. I mean, there are other videos that you can find about the Shah's speeches and so forth in regards to development in Iran and what have you. And they're all exactly the same. They're all framed in exactly the same way. They're trying to demonize the Shah. And this particular interview itself, the aim of this interview was to demonize the Shah and to make him sound like some nutcase who was authoritarian, who was a fascist, who was a dictator in his own country, and who was not who was pursuing plans that were not for the benefit of his people and for the country, which is completely and utterly untrue. Of course he was. So why was he building all those hospitals? Why was he building all those schools? Why the infrastructure? Why the roads? Why the motorways? Why the bridges? Why the dams? So who were they for? What was he going to do, sell them off? I mean, this is a man who championed the nationalization of Iranian oil, erroneously attributed to Mossadegh. This is not true at all. The original plans for the nationalization of the oil was actually laid down by the monarch, not by the prime minister, Mossadegh. Mossadegh had no such imagination at all. Yes, he championed the cause rather, and he got the accolade for it, which of course is the case. The monarch should not be seen to be directly involved in such matters. The Shah was happy for Mossadegh to take the credit, but that doesn't mean that it was his idea. Two different things completely. Like I said, you have to be very careful. If you're shown two images, you immediately associate a relationship between two images, and this is wrong. So one must always be cognizant of such trickery. But this is a complete and utter farce interview. I mean, if you're enjoying the channel and the programs that we're making for you, the conversation and the views and the general outlook on society, politics, and social matters, please remember to subscribe and hit the like button. It will help the channel, and you'll be kept informed when a new one comes around. Thank you very much.